Intermittent fasting is catching a lot of attention. On its surface, going without food seems crazy. There are still areas today where lack of food is an issue. It's no joke and it's a very serious problem. But intermittent fasting, certain periods of time without food, is actually a part of the natural human experience. We will be talking about the nutritional fasting as a way of optimizing health and fitness as opposed to the nutrition crisis happening in the world today. So if not eating is so good, why are so many of us absolutely beyond angry if we do not have the food when we want it and in the amount that we want it? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about our hunger triggers as it relates to building our optimal physiques, why fasting can be a terrific part of our arsenal for health, and how exactly we do it based on the latest evidence and studies. Finally, we'll conclude with an easy and simple approach to add fasting into your routine. Let's get into it. Fasting has been around for centuries. It was prescribed in early Greece as a medicinal remedy and has been associated with holy days in many parts of the world. But as we are looking to optimize our male physique and overall fitness, how exactly does fasting fit into it? The answer is just that. It fits in as a piece of the overall puzzle. Just like nutrition, cold and hot therapy, stretching and hydration, it's a part of all the tools we have to achieve optimal health. And as fasting is such a craze right now, there's a lot of information that completely overcomplicates a very simple idea. That is, the idea is to trigger your body to react to stimuli or a lack of stimuli to increase health benefits. Very, very simple. One thing that is happening at the most basic level is fasting changes the fuel your body uses to burn for energy. If you don't eat for a long enough period of time, you will switch from burning sugar to burning fat. And for those looking to lose weight, that would ultimately be the fat you want to get rid of. There are many more benefits other than weight loss, but the key change within your body is the switching of fuel for energy. Glucose is the sugar fuel our bodies burn first. If we have a surplus of glucose, we will then store it in the form of glycogen. When we enter a temporary fasted state, we will tap into those glycogen stores and use them for fuel. Where things change is when we prolong that fasted state and move past the point where glycogen stores are adequate for our fueling needs. This is fasting as it's applied to fitness, the point where glucose levels in our body are effectively depleted and we turn to the backup sources, namely our fats or fatty acids to be specific. A fascinating part of using fatty acid for fuel is that the fuel structure changes. We are now starting to use ketones as the fuel source, the same ketones that are emphasized in the keto diet and the carnivore diet. And for good reason, as ketones used for fuel and working their way through our bloodstream have a number of peripheral benefits aside from burning fat. Ketones affect mitochondrial efficiency and increase our ability to metabolize at a more ideal rate. Additionally, our cells tend to be more resistant to stress when we use ketones as fuel. Autophagy, or the name used when good cells consume our bad cells, also occurs. It's like our body taking out the trash and cleaning up. And on the other side, after this cleanup, ketones help our body's ability to regenerate cells and stimulate metabolic growth. The current literature suggests that this ideal state is best when we switch back from glucose to ketones as fuel. That is, to keep our bodies guessing so we don't become stale and lethargic. There's a ton of research here, but suffice it to say that fasting to the point of triggering ketones for fuel has a good deal of positive benefits for our body and mind. One very important point to note, fasting is not a diet. Think of fasting as timing, meal timing, the frequency of when you eat. The idea is that the fasting portion of your day is doing the work. We don't want to think of fasting as a way to reduce caloric intake. Rather, our amount of food and calories should stay about the same. We simply eat them after a period of eating nothing. And perhaps this slips by a lot of people, but we fast every day when we sleep. We don't think of sleeping that way, but that's exactly what is happening. We are not eating. When we wake up to eat, we break the fast or have breakfast. So in essence, fasting can be viewed as an extension of what we're already doing. And this is consistent with our history. We didn't always have food at the ready when we woke up. Sometimes humans did, but not always. And that's the approach we want to mimic here as well. Fast sometimes, but not always. So how do we do this exactly? The answer is once in a while. And even more good news is that we customize it to our unique situations. As with exercise and diet, there is no one way. There is never one way, only your way. But we do now have a lot of guidance and science to help us find what works best. For instance, we have so many variations of fasting. 12 hours off and 12 hours on, or 16-8, 16 hours of fasting with an 8-hour window to eat. There is OMAD, 1 meal a day, which basically means about a ratio of 22 hours off and 2 hours to eat all the meals. So which one is right for us if we're here to optimize our male fitness? For the most part, it's 16-8, and perhaps a little bit more if you're more advanced at fasting. And the timing is definitely not every day. In fact, at most, it would be every other day. But much of the research now is showing that more days in between fasting has the same or similar results without some of the negative side effects. That being, fasting too much means your body is not receiving the nutrients it needs, and your caloric reduction is too sustained and your metabolism suffers. But more importantly, today's research is suggesting that when we have that eating window is as important as having the window itself. And the conclusion is we should eat earlier in the day rather than later. This does not mean that dinner is a thing of the past, that you have to skip those incredible times with friends and family for a late dinner. No, it's just part of the arsenal in the journey to optimal health. When it's right for you, try to eat earlier in the day. When it's right for you, fast with an eating window earlier in the day. This is consistent with our natural way and will be able to fit into anyone's schedule. You avoid the grief and stress about setting your watch to eat and instead take things naturally as they would fit into your life. The benefits will follow. On top of that, eating right before you sleep is generally not a good idea. You want to give yourself some time to digest before you nod off. Even if your meal is ideal in terms of nutrition, many studies confirm this. Eating can spike adrenaline and make it hard for you to fall asleep. If you have that carb overload coma that helps you fall asleep, the insulin levels in your body are working overtime. And when they return back to the normal state, your sleep can be disrupted or not as deep as you need it. Also, a full stomach when going to sleep could trigger acid reflux. Simply rolling over onto your belly after a particularly large meal could force some of those acids up into your throat. So keep the timing in mind and use it as your life and schedule permits. Okay, how about some of the do's and don'ts when fasting? Let's start with the most important thing to do when on a fast: work out. Yes, lift weights in particular during a fasted state. Fasting is a process of breaking down and changing the molecules in your body, the conversion of fuel. If our goal is to maintain muscle and strength and obtain all the benefits, then we need to tell our body exactly that. Lift weights and give the signal that muscle tissue should not be converted. As our bodies are optimized for survival, the fact that we are using our muscles is a clear signal that those muscles are crucial. And for us, they are. Also, water. Stay hydrated. A fasted state is associated with eating, or more specifically, insulin reduction. Water does not trigger that, and it's incredibly important to stay hydrated. So water is good and essential during a fast, but what about other foods? Well, coffee and tea are also not going to break that fast. In fact, there are a lot of other elements in coffee and tea that are ideal in this state. Electrolytes are also crucial. Make sure that you're getting the sodium, potassium, and magnesium your body requires. If you're eating in a natural and healthy way, this should not create a deficit. But if you feel your body needs something other than water during your fast, pour a little natural salt into your water. It's amazing how effective it can be. There is some evidence that stevia, aspartame, and other sweeteners do not break a fast either. But we want to be very careful here. In fact, sugar itself is incredibly challenging when we're trying to optimize our physique. We really shouldn't be looking for ways to replace sugar with a substitute. A better approach is to satiate ourselves with a natural diet void of processed sugar or sugar substitutes to avoid craving them altogether. Stick to water, sparkling or not, coffee and tea as you desire, and make sure you have electrolytes. You will find yourself in a great state for when that eating window comes. Finally, a word about maintaining muscle. If you continue to lift during your fast, you will keep all your gains. We know this from science, but we also see this through anecdotes all the time. Look at all the fitness influencers who are very fit and muscular that also fast. If fasting had negative effects on the male physique, it would be jettisoned as fast as possible. That's not the case for them, and it's not the case for us. So add intermittent fasting in as you see it and when you can fit it. Don't overthink things and keep your journey as stress-free as possible, and add in fasting as just another tool for you to use towards your goal of greatness. Check out this video for more tips and hints on male fitness and health, and we'll see you next time.